to the Virtual Entrepreneurship Center. This is a USDA funded project between Alabama A&M, Auburn University, and Tuskegee University. My name is Dr. Keenan Grinnell, and I'm CEO of Global Capital Group out of Wauwatosa, Wisconsin. Today we have a distinguished guest with us, Dr. James Whitty of Auburn University. And we're going to engage Dr. Whitty today about how to leverage education resources to grow your business. This gentleman has a wealth of knowledge within this area, but before we really drill down in terms of some of the questions, I want to just take a moment to ask Dr. Whitty to just tell us a little something about the man, the vision, his walk professionally, and the legend itself. How about that, Dr. Whitty?
Excellent. Appreciate the opportunity to sit here and kind of converse, Keenan, go back and forth.
Okay.
I think in terms of my own background, at one time I was a vocational teacher in a vocational center. I do have a doctorate in adult ed, and I think my professional interest deals in post-secondary education. When a lot of folks hear the term adult education, they associate it with the GED development, the high school equivalency, and so on. But as a field of study, it goes far, far beyond that. I do coordinate the adult ed programs at Auburn. We have doctoral, EDS, that's the education specialist, and master's programs. And most of my graduates go on into industry. They train, they develop training programs, they evaluate programs. So it's, although GED is part of that genre of adult education subjects, development of individuals in a workforce setting is really the key element of what we do at Auburn in our adult education programs.
Okay. Tell us a little something about, a few of your travels. If I were to really engage you in that manner, we'd be talking about Gulliver's travels because you've been all over the globe. Let the individuals that are looking at this module online know a little something about where you've laid your footprints.
You're right. I've been very, very fortunate in my travels. My wife and I computed at one time that I have been through more countries than I have years in my life, and it will be that way until I'm dead. I don't know how she reached that conclusion, but I have been blessed with a fair amount of world travel.
Okay.
And it's not just the tourist route. I've worked, for instance, I was in Egypt. I taught at the Suez Canal University there during the Arab Spring Revolution. That was kind of exciting. I've taught in Japan, throughout Central and South America. So I've been pretty lucky here.
And the reason I wanted to take that approach with you because it's important for the viewer to understand the worldliness of the experience that you bring. And so we're not just having shop talk with you, we're having conversation with someone that's been around the globe and part of their portfolio has a world set of experiences. So why don't we go ahead and just jump right in. What are some of the key education resources for growing small businesses, in your opinion?
When we think about growing small business, you can almost fall back on the economic elements of land, labor, and capital brought together by entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. Now that's straight out of Economics 101.
Right.
And that's what we learn as undergraduates. We pass the test, and then we forget it. Until we get involved and begin to realize that you've got to have a place to have your business. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be some labor involved. It could be your labor, it could be somebody else's labor, but somebody's going to work there. And you're not going to start with zero amount of money. Money is just one of the resources. And lastly, you as the entrepreneur have to bring it all together. Well, let's go back and look at our business for just a second. Why would anybody get paid to to do a job. Well, in order to get paid, you've got to have skill, you've got to have tools, and you've got to have a willingness to work. Now, you take those three elements, and if you have those three things, you will probably be employed somewhere. Well, the same thing applies if you are self-employed, if you are the entrepreneur. You've got to have skill. You better have some tools. Now, sometimes that tool may just be your laptop. It might be your hookup to the internet. You've got to have a tool.
Understood.
And lastly, you've got to have the willingness to do it. I enjoy telling the students in my classes, every now and then I'll get a young man or young woman come through, and when they graduate from college, they want to start their own business. And I tell them that they're in the wrong place. Because you see, in universities, we train people to work for others, and we train them very, very well. Get your degree in business, you go to work for a company as a manager and work your way up the ladder. No problem. But if you want to become an entrepreneur, you get away from that university. You create a thing called a business plan. If you don't know how to write it, get with somebody in the bank or somebody around who's going to help you write a business plan. You take it to the bank and see if you can get a loan. You open your business and you plan on working 80 hours a week for the first 5 years that that business is operating. And if you haven't gone bankrupt, you can cut back to 70 hours a week for your second 5 years. And after 10 years, you may have a business.
Gotcha.
Now, if at any point in time you go bankrupt, that's okay. That's okay to go bankrupt. But you sit down and figure out what happened to make you go bankrupt, and you write a new business plan that takes that into account. You get another loan, and now you plan on 85 hours a week to make up that difference. Now, that's an entrepreneur's undertaking.
What I'm hearing you say, and I've heard some others say it, but not quite as profoundly as you. Business success is only going to come about if there's been some reality of business failure, because apparently that person would have had to have gone through some struggles to significantly appreciate the valley of prosperity that they're trying to land in.
Well, you find out what you're made of.
Understood.
The business world is very, very competitive. It is not an East Coast soccer game in which we do not keep score. Score is kept on that.
I'm going to keep that one. That's a pearl that I'm going to steal from you. I'm going to keep that one.
I mean, a score is being kept daily. Now, if you win, your employees win, your customers win, you've got a sense of success that is unequal. That's what winning is. And that's why you want to engage as an entrepreneur. You want to have the feeling that your idea, your work ethic, and your contribution to whatever it is you're doing is going to be so good that the whole world is going to recognize it, they're going to see it, and they're going to support you through their participation, through their buying your product or what else. And you put yourself on the line. And if you're willing to stand up and be counted, then you'll probably be successful. But if you want to build safeguards that are we could build safeguards into our businesses, into our manufacturing, that are so protective that we would accomplish nothing. Without risk, you accomplish nothing. Now, not stupid risk, not stupid risk, but a calculated, I'm ready for it, I can overcome it risk. And you got to believe that in your heart, and you got to demonstrate that through your ethics.
But let me ask this: what are some? How do entrepreneurs access some of the resources that you've been talking about? You talked about the university. You sort of mentioned that perhaps the university is not the place to be because they prepare people to enter the workforce, not to prepare people to take charge of the workforce and lead the workforce. But what are some resources that are inside in educational infrastructures? And it doesn't have to be the 4-year degree granting institution. It could be the tech college or community college, you know, how do entrepreneurs access some of these resources?
Well, let's start out with the accessing is a process. All right?
Like that.
You got to locate, you got to evaluate, and you've got to communicate. You take those three things. You need information. You need a how-to. What's next? You find it. Now, there we go. How do you do that? You start with the ever-popular Google search. Remember I told you should have a computer?
Right.
In this day and age, you cannot live without it. If you don't have it, then you go back and get the skills to use it. You go to your church, you go to a community center, you go to a night program that tells you basically how to run a Word program or how to use the internet. And that's your initial investment in your business, is getting the skills to run it.
What you're basically saying is that there is no business success without the successful embracing of this as a part of your toolkit portfolio.
It's a tool.
Absolutely.
How are you going to live without it?
That's right. Absolutely.
So we asked, where are we going to go to find out this information on how to run our business? Well, we located. Internet's filled with colleges and four-year colleges, junior colleges, private schools, private companies exist to do nothing but help you start up a business. Go to an incubator center. Ever hear of incubator centers?
Oh, yes.
We know about them, but the guy the man or woman who's starting their business may not know about them. How do they find out?
You know, Jim, with that in mind, that brings me to this question: how are those resource places outreaching to the would-be entrepreneur and the existing small business owner to be able to make them aware of the significant resources and expertise that's made available, you know, to them? How are these universities and tech colleges and incubators and private companies with these programs and community-based organizations, even faith-based organizations, kind of outreach and, you know, making people aware of this?
Let's go to marketing.
Okay.
Okay. Probably don't do a very good job of it. How do these things come about? We had a janitor at Auburn University. She cleaned the floors in where my office is. Great lady. We talked, and she was concerned because she wanted to get her GED high school equivalency. Well, there's no public transportation to the two-year college where the GED center was located. And I got concerned over that. I said, man, that's not right. So we did a little survey of employees and people in the general area. Just ran an informal survey through the Chamber of Commerce and said, how many people need GEDs? Found out there's a bunch of them. So my university, in conjunction with the two-year university, the junior college, established a GED center on a four-year college campus. Probably the only one in the country. I don't care. I've got people who can now come on the campus of the four-year university, get their high school equivalency, and the fact that there's no public transportation to the other place doesn't count. This is how things begin. Gee, a conversation with a woman who cleans offices has led to the establishment of a center. But you got to do your research, you got to get your agreements, and off it goes. Now go back to the individual who wants to start a for-profit business. I've always wondered about nonprofits.
Okay.
Okay, you're running a nonprofit. You getting a salary out of that thing? You're getting a salary, there's some profitability in there somewhere. Now, you may not be making a lot of profit, but you can't run a nonprofit without being entrepreneurial.
Absolutely.
We cannot run a university without some degree of entrepreneurialism. The days of going back to the legislature and asking for, we need additional funds here because we're doing the right thing.
Those are outdated days.
You better show me some outcomes. I mean, what do you expect out of this investment?
Right.
And you better use the terms that investment people use. ROI is a good one. You want to get money from me? What is my return on that investment?
And Jim, with that, we're going to stop, but we'll be back with part two. Thank you.
Thank you.